Here.
Ryan Thompson,
I'm here.
Bob Don.
Present.
The only guy I'm missing right now is Bob Doan, unless he's over in the border. Therefore, I think we're in position to start this meeting and make an efficient process. To that end, we always like to take care of Janita because she gets anxious if we don't put her on first. Is that right?
No, no, Mr. Chairman, I don't get anxious.
All right, all right.
But
Good morning, Bob Doan.
Good morning.
I do appreciate the kindness and the courtesy that you and your board have always extended to me in that manner. The report that I gave to Rochelle is the same one that should have been given to you at your last meeting. Unfortunately, I was out. So I don't know if there were any questions that you had at the time or if you have any questions today.
I don't have any questions. I never do. I'm beginning to understand how the labeling works.
Okay.
And you seem to have resolved them all.
Yes.
So that's good to know.
Oh.
And it's
Yep.
also interesting that everybody, well, most of them, in this case, all but one, is concerned about surveying. So I guess as land becomes more valuable by the day or hour, more complaints are possible. So if there's no other questions or information, I would consider that item closed.
Okay.
That acceptable? All right.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your time and your board's time. And I will see you at your next meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Moving on to our regular agenda, we had one item of old business, a letter from Peter Gardner, who's asking for our support to reissue a letter that we wrote or submitted back in October of 2011. And I think it has to be carefully reviewed and to make certain that it's still current with practice and practicality. So his concern was that he's seeing a number of site plans with boundary, info, topo, structures, and statements about conformance to setback requirements prepared by architects, landscape architects, and engineers without a seal and signature. So the problem really lies within the town or the agency accepting the information. And I think from publication or what's the word I want? Advertising, for lack of a better word, that you can't do this. And if we don't protect ourselves, then it's going to continue to be abused. So therefore, it's really, a guy like Mr. Gardner inciting the Cows Association to be more proactive. It's not something that we can do until a complaint is brought to us. What do you think, Ryan and Bob and Bob's? It really isn't our position at this point, lacking a formal complaint. But the simple answer is no. We haven't changed the statute. It has to, and the regulation. It is the same, and it needs to be enforced. And the only way we could be involved in enforcement is if somebody brings it to our attention specifically.
Is there any way that we can either through CALS or through the department just resend the letter to the 169 towns so that the appropriate people at the towns are just getting a reminder or maybe even a first look at what the requirement actually is?
I think you have a good point there. We take the letter that had been addressed to Eric Treaster and now address it to the town clerks of the state of Connecticut. And that's and then suggested.
I'm sorry, Tony.
No, I was just saying, if you're going to send it to the town clerk, they have to be advised in the letter that it should be distributed to their zoning enforcement department to suggest that you need to know this information.
Exactly.
That sounds like a good idea.
Oh, Jane is a list of all the town clerks readily available to you, right? To us.
I can find that out, but I think
Yeah.
so.
But if the board would make a motion, I'd be willing to edit this letter, change the entry paragraph, and then send it around for review. And I think it's a good idea to submit it.
I'll make a motion that you do that.
All right.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Ryan. Thank you, Bob. So I'll change this as though it's going to the town clerk. It really just is the addressee and the first paragraph. And then I'll look it over carefully and send it back out to us individually and review it one more time.
Great.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All those in favor of the motion to reissue our letter from October 11th to the town clerks and zoning enforcement departments, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I'll do that later today. I think it's important and fairly simple to edit because nothing's changed in
Right.
the process. Just making a note. Okay, the next item on our regular agenda, item D, was a list of candidates who took and passed the NCWS exam. So that was the engineering exams, 3 mechanical, 2 civil. Point of fact. Then we move into our regular agenda for applications. The first 2, Colchiero and Stanford, reviewed by John DeWolf for Class 1 Credit Part 1. Although, yeah, we'll do those 2, and then I think I'll skip ahead for one.
You're muted.
Am I on now?
Yes, sir, you are. For those
Okay.
2, Colchiero and
realize.
Stanford, Class 1.
Okay. Coursera, I'm a little annoyed. He can't fill out the application properly. It says that the Western New England University he graduated. Doesn't say anything about the degree or date on it. I have to go back and look at there is a transcript that shows he graduated and he's perfectly legitimate. But I'm annoyed that I found a couple places that applications are not being filled in properly. And other than, I would like to go back to them, but that makes just more work for Jane, which doesn't seem right. So I'm going to move approval anyway. So I move approval of both candidates, Cosiera and Stanford.
Second. Thank you, Richard. All those in favor of the motion to approve Colchiero and Stanford, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And out of respect for our busy land surveying contingent, I'm going to move ahead to page 4 of our regular agenda, which is to review 2 applications for Class 6. Well, one for Class 6 Credit Part 1, which is Jesse Ray, reviewed by land surveyor members. So,
Yeah, I have no issues with him.
Bob,
I believe it's Jesse Ray. I do have a question about when we're tolling experience time. He's not, yes, he's not the guy from Ohio. How do we look at time that's spent say, working for a firm in New York State or in Massachusetts, where they're not necessarily under the supervision of a licensed Connecticut license. Can that time be used for the tolling of the time, or does it have to be
No,
time?
absolutely. Experience is experience. And we're,
Okay.
we're all looking for reciprocity and,
Well, I don't
what
think
do you-
this is a reciprocity
No,
application.
it's not the point. It's if we're surveying, we're surveying, and we're not, it's a different story if you're talking about Western lands or something, but this is New England surveying. Yeah. It's no different than all your experience in engineering in India. I would not have any problem whatsoever with that. Of course, if he's not working in Connecticut, he's not working in Connecticut.
And I think I don't think it was Ray. I think it was Gromley that he's talking about, but he was working for a surveyor, but not a Connecticut surveyor. And I agree. I don't think there's any issue with that.
Right. So any further discussion? You okay with that, Bob?
Yep.
So it's moved and seconded to approve Jesse Ray for Class 6 exam credit Part 1. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. That leads us to Ralph Gromley for Class 8 exam.
I will move to approve him. He's got like 37 years experience.
Second.
Sheesh.
What took him so long? All those in favor of the motion to approve Ralph Gromley with 37 years experience for Class 8 exam, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Then we had one issue of a reinstatement for a land surveyor, Alan Bongiovanni.
I would
It
move
lapsed.
that we reinstate Alan.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
I reviewed that, Tony,
Yes, sir.
and he did, during the 2 years that his license lapsed, he did sign and seal projects. And we asked him for a list of the projects. And I always thought I was a slacker, but now I know I am. He signed and sealed 530 projects in 2 years. It's like, whoa. I don't know. I got to pick up the pace somewhere.
Plus you have to give him credit for keeping track and remembering every one of them.
I know. He gave he had to do it on legal size paper, but he did give a complete list.
Wow.
Well,
I don't think he remembered every single one of them. I think he had to assemble that list, but
Yeah.
well, we give him the idea of the reinstatement and the listing of projects is that you can't say you weren't involved, right? You've admitted
Right.
it's there.
Yeah.
We find you competent, but you're still responsible. So we
That's
give him an
correct.
A+ for effort. And is there a
So
motion?
I'll
Was
I'll
your
second
motion to
Bob.
approve?
I'll second Bob's motion.
yeah, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The last item that would involve our surveying contingent was our minutes from the July 9th meeting. And once again, I think they're very well prepared. I didn't see anything personally that needed amendment, but if there's a comment to the contrary, I would love to hear it. Other than that, is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So
So
moved.
move.
I'm going to say that was Richard and Bob Dolan. All those in favor of the motion to accept the minutes of July 9th as presented, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there.
Right. Thank you. Good question. Good point. Thank you, Brian. How was your trip?
It was great. It was long, a lot of driving.
You did driving, well.
Five
Always good to
5,000
get-
miles.
Whoa. Wow.
How many?
5,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of miles. 50 is a lot of miles for me these days. All right, we'll go back to well, if there's no other surveying business that I'm aware of, if I didn't miss anything, then I would say that Bob and anybody else who wants to go back to work may do so, and we'll move along. Ryan, you can't go
I'll have to,
anywhere.
so
Okay.
say
I just
goodbye
have
to you
one-
all. I gotta get busy. Enjoy.
Okay, thank you.
I just
Can
have
we
one
move back?
question. Jane sent me an application, an engineering application early, like about 10 minutes before the meeting, that she had sent to John yesterday, but wasn't sure if John had had a chance to look at it. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't needed to weigh in on that. Was for Robert Monahan.
I reviewed it and
Okay.
it's okay. I
Okay,
did look
yeah.
at it. I didn't let Jane know I reviewed it, but I did it yesterday.
Okay,
All right. Then since he reviewed that, I'm gonna go ahead and drop off because I got to get ready for a meeting with
Okay.
Madison. All right.
okay. Thank you very much, Ryan.
All right,
Bob,
thanks.
thank you.
You're right.
So that moves us back to page 2 of our regular agenda. Michael Amorando, that John DeWolf reviewed for class, let's see, approved class 1 license. Again, one of these where we've taken both parts.
Okay, the application, this is another one.
Yeah,
It shows he has a degree, he graduated, and it's in civil engineering, but it doesn't say what degree he has, though it does indicate 130 credits, so I'm sure it's correct. But it annoys me that these people can't fill these forms out correctly. I'm going to move approval, subject to confirmation that he has a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. This one didn't have a transcript attached, so I think these things need to be done better. So that's my motion. Prove subject to confirmation that it's a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering.
so if there's a transcript buried in some of the paperwork in Jane's office, is that acceptable?
Sure. Yes.
So it's a move. Is there a second to John's motion to approve, subject to proof of the transcript for the degree?
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Michael Amorando, subject to verification of the degree, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
And
opposed?
Jane, I'm not trying to create more work for you, but I think this one needs to be checked.
No problem.
All right. Thank you, Jane. All right. I spent some time reviewing the other applications on my chart was class 4 reciprocity, Apostolaris through DeCecco. There was only one non-model law engineer. And two out of the 7 were PhD, and the evaluation of Mr. Bose was excellent. Some of them just strike you as like, God, didn't the guy ever make one mistake? So my recommendation is to approve Apostolaris through DeCecco on page 3 of our regular agenda for class 4 reciprocity. Is there a motion to accept my recommendation?
I'll move that.
Thank you, John.
Second,
Thank you, Richard. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing on that, motion carries. And one more just simple comment there was like, there's a lot of structural expertise, it seems, coming around. I don't know. In my applications, there's a lot of, seems to be structural, which is good. Rob Lewandowski reviewed Ellerding through Kruger on page 3 for class 4 reciprocity.
yeah, I want to talk about Ryan Ellerding.
He's a model law. His application says 5 years, 5 months engineering experience. BSCE, Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, Purdue University. You look at his experience, it all sounds good. But then when I start the first thing that caught my attention was one of the employment verifications. And hold on, I'm gonna flip to it here. I'm gonna say since I've been reviewing these applications, this is probably one of the worst reviews or verifications I've read. So that certainly caught my attention. And I'm going to read it just so you understand my concern here. While Ryan's task description is accurate, he did not lead any of these tasks. He was reporting to more experienced engineers who often had to take over the work to get it done correctly. Ryan was assigned several similar, repeatable tasks with very frequent guidance, but he was unable to successfully complete many of his tasks without other engineers stepping in to take over the task. We would not have felt comfortable with Ryan stamping any plans while he was employed with K. Singh and Associates. Now, this is AJ Singh, the owner of the company. While he was extremely reliable and dependable, his engineering skills were not sufficient to lead tasks or stamp any plan sets. Now, mind you, that's from a year ago. That's not
Recent,
his first,
very recent, yeah.
yeah, that's not his first job out of college. He graduated in 2010. He ended up having about a 2-year work gap, was not working for 2 years. And the explanation was that his wife, during the birth of their child, had some complications, and he had to stay out of work, stay home for 2 years. So the 2-year gap is, let's say, justified. But that review concerned me, especially being a recent employer. He jumped around from employer to employer in that time frame. His experience time frame is from 2011 to date. He worked for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 companies in a pretty short time frame here. Now, he's a model law. He has the right degree, has the right experience, but when that review shows up in there, it definitely causes me concern. So,
What state is he licensed in?
Wisconsin.
I'm inclined to agree that there is concern there. I don't think we would be responsible approving it. I think he
Well-
needs to address this. Why don't we ask him to address this
Right.
review?
I think that's a fair, yeah.
That's kind of where I arrived at. I said, I don't know what our options are here. Like, can we say, can you please respond to this review and provide clarification? Because let me read. If you read his description of working there, it's not similar. Let me read that to you. So he wrote, I was lead project engineer for this project. I conducted site visit. I decided the route of the chilled water pipe. So when you read his description of his work experience there, it's normal. Like, he did the job, but yet the verifier said just the opposite. So in my mind, do we say, can you reconcile the difference between your work description at this company versus the owner's review of your work and work description at this company? They seem to be different. Is that a fair position, and then table it?
I think so. And Rob, you had I think you listed 5 employers in 5 years.
I think it's 6, actually. Yeah.
Six. And the last one says you haven't learned anything in 5 years, and the frequency of employment and a significant review is of concern. We'd like you to expand on, the background of that. I think you have a good point. Just name the last one. We're concerned about the what do you call it? Let's see, what's the word I want?
Reference?
The reference.
Well, the discrepancy between your experience and the review by the employer.
Right.
Yeah, it's the employment verification page.
Thank you. That's the word. Yeah.
By AJ Singh of K Singh and Associates versus your work experience summary at the same employer.
Yeah, the only thing that might happen is I don't think that he gets the actual review from Mr. Singh, where, I think that's more, confidential to the NCAAS, not necessarily, shared with him.
Not
Other than-
confidential. Huh?
Excuse. Yeah, I
It
mean,
can't
it's
be-
not confidential because it is shared, but I don't think that he gets to see that review. So maybe he's not aware, maybe he is aware of his lack of skills and he's trying to sort of embellish what he does. But, in reality, he needs to address the fact that, what is being said.
Richard,
You have to
wouldn't
give
he
some-
know about it? Didn't he submit the application?
Well, I think that what happens is you give the reference page to your employer, and then your employer fills it out and sends it in. So you don't necessarily see, what he comments on or how he comments on you.
I mean, a couple of the employers, he self-verified too. Where they
Right.
said
Well,
people didn't
and it's
respond
not
or
that, it's
whatever.
not that, and I totally agree with you, Bob, in terms of, we have encountered people who say that they're very experienced in their trade. And then all of a sudden, when it comes to designing something, you sort of look at it and say, well, you're not doing it right. What the
Yeah,
heck's
I mean-
going on here? You have a master's degree and you got all these credentials, but you don't know how to design anything. And you don't have
and-
any common sense either. So, I mean,
In our position here
it's
is
a
to
whole
grant somebody
gambit
a-
type of thing where,
Yep.
it's a knife edge. But no, I agree in terms of I have reviewed similar applications and have sort of shrugged my shoulders and said, hey, I don't necessarily agree with allowing you to be a registered professional engineer, but it wasn't that blatant where, you just sort of read between the lines and you can sort of see that they might not necessarily be, the sharpest tool in the shed, but
How about something that the board reviewed your application, is concerned about the number of employers in a short period of time and the content of at least one reference. We'd like you to give some background to the recommendation or the comments from whatever the guy's name is, Ting. Is that too
Yeah, I mean,
blatant?
I don't
I
think,
think we should just ask about that one review.
Okay.
I agree with that. I agree with that. It doesn't matter how
I-
many people you work for, but
So
I
don't
I
say too
absolutely
much.
agree jumping around every
Right.
year, but I don't think that's something we can question. I mean, sometimes that happens.
I have a question. Do you have the
Yep.
transcript?
Yes. If your
What's the
question
trans-
is what's his GPA, it's low, which,
That's
But
what I
again,
would,
2.29, so but again, that's not a reason to deny the application, right? But it's yet another note against the application.
I think we should just address that one review.
All right. So
I agree.
the board reviewed your application, and we have concerns about the reference from your latest or current or most recent employer.
Your review by AJ Singh, AJAYSINGH.
So
From K,
name him.
Yeah, do
Right,
you want me
Bob?
to send something to Jane or?
Yeah,
what-
yeah, make it easy on Jane as to the wording.
I'll send an email after this and just reference that one review and let's get a clarification. We could table the application.
So that's your motion to table.
Yeah, Ryan Elderling. Yeah, my motion, I recommend tabling it and get a clarification, a further explanation on the employer review by AJ Singh from K Singh and Associates.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second. Oh, okay.
Thank you, John. All those in favor of the motion to table the application from Ryan Elderling, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Okay, so the rest are all model law engineers with good experience, good degrees, good. So I recommend approval. They're all straightforward applications. I recommend approval for the balance of them. That'd be Green through Kruger.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. In further discussion, you scan those things, those references, because sometimes there's a lot of them. But when something like that catches your eye because it's so seldom, you can't ignore it.
That was my feeling.
Yeah. And they are very seldom. It's interesting that you would think there was some misgivings between the employer and employee, and the employer did the right thing ethically by saying, look, he ain't got it. But it's interesting, as Richard said, that the applicant either didn't read it or didn't receive it. Anyway, all those in favor of the motion to approve Green through Kruger, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Richard, you reviewed Lemon Cooler through Scarfino for Class 4 on page 3.
They were all model law and they had the credentials to be, approved. The only verification we need is David Moyer. His current, I guess registration in Massachusetts expired in June. And Anna Rowe, her current registration in Wisconsin expired last month. So we just need to verify those two. Registrations that they're active. But other than that, I'll make a motion that we approve all 8 of them. Or 9 of them. 9.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Al. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. And just as a note, I think that, I had at least, 4 females in that, out of 9, which is really good to see that, they're really getting, involved in engineering, which is good for us.
So, any opposed? We had to finish that motion. No opposed. Hearing none, the motion carries. Then we had Bob Doan reviewed Schneider through Williams on page 3 for Class 4 reciprocity.
I'll, excuse me, make a motion to approve all 7 for Class 4 license reciprocity.
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Rob. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Schneider through Williams on page 3 for Class 4 reciprocity, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
One interesting point on one of them, his experience, the client and the location were confidential. And he was the lead mechanical engineering for massive data center designs. And it's probably tied into Bitcoin and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably best he doesn't want us to know, and we don't want to know.
We don't want to know.
That stuff scares me.
Yeah, it certainly is.
the next group of our applicants were the candidates for Class 9 license. So that's a list from Aielli through Zakowski, a cross-section of universities. All those well, is there a motion to approve Class 9 license for Aielli through Zakowski on page 4?
So move.
Thank you, John. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Richard. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Which leads us to our supplemental agenda. I'm getting better at keeping track of all the pieces that come in, and hopefully I don't miss anything. But so we had no correspondence on our supplemental. We had no old business that I'm aware of other than our letter to the town clerks, which leads us to Class 1 exam credit part 1, Brian Maloney, reviewed by John DeWolf.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Thank you, Al. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I don't remember what the reconsideration was, John, but anything significant there?
I don't remember what it was either, but I looked at the application carefully and it was fine. I forgot what the reason was.
Okay. All right, then we had new applications under our supplemental, McAllen, McLaughlin, and Ramos, reviewed by John DeWolf.
I move approval.
Second.
Thank you, Robert. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Now, I reviewed the next two on the supplemental for John Adams and Catherine Anderson. And where's my list? Both model law, both with good experience, current licenses in New Hampshire and New York respectively. So my recommendation would be to approve. Is there a motion to accept my recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Richard.
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you, Al. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I got to ask myself a question. Why do I have to ask for a motion to accept my recommendation? Why can't I just move to approve? I don't know why that started.
I don't either. It doesn't make
I don't
sense.
know either.
Going forward, I'm changing it.
Make that motion.
Yeah, it's one less
I
one
agree.
less phrase. All right, Richard, you reviewed Bellini through Lorio for Class 4 reciprocity on page 2 of our regular agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve all 4 of them, and there was one who had a misdemeanor, but it was buying alcohol while he was in college and he was underage.
Oh my
So-
goodness.
Oh, no.
So,
Terrible,
no,
huh?
he's the worst kind of person out there, so, but I won't say who he was, and it doesn't matter, but I had to sort of laugh at that when I read that, so I'll make a motion where we approve all 4 of them.
All right,
I'll
thank you.
second.
Thank you, Al. All those in favor of the motion to approve a regular good old boy engineer, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Above all, we want healthy, practical, realistic,
There you
good
go.
American engineers. Okay,
Well-rounded.
yeah, well run. Thank you.
Well-rounded, definitely.
Keep drinking that beer, you might be. All right, Bob Doan, you got McConigal and Newberry for Class 4 reciprocity.
Okay, McConigal was not a model law. He had a Bachelor of Science in Engineering, Electrical Engineering Technology from the University of Maine. Has 9 years of experience, and Newberry was a model law with good degree, good experience. I make a motion to approve both.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Richard.
Oh.
All
Allison.
those in favor of the motion to approve McConaughey and Newberry, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Rob Lewandowski reviewed Powell, Quinones, and Walsh for Class 4 reciprocity.
All three model law, good experience, good degrees, straightforward applications. I recommend approval.
Thank you, Robert. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Al. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Which leads us to our last applicant, Robert Monahan, for Class 4 reciprocity.
I move approval.
The second,
I'll second.
thank you, Rob. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Which I think includes our regular and supplemental agenda business for today. Is there any new or old
Tony?
business for discussion?
Tony, one suggestion, this letter you're going to draft up to the town clerks,
Yes,
a
sir.
little bit of a note or indication in there, what you'd like them to do with it once they get it.
That's
So
what I
that's
said,
an-
to distribute to their zoning, planning and or zoning department, right?
Yep. Yeah.
But that'll be
Otherwise they'll sit there in a file somewhere, you know?
right. Yeah, exactly.
That's
Okay,
it.
I'll edit that right now and send it off to Jane, you have this Word document still available, or do you have to redo it?
If you just want to send me the changes, I can type it up because I just have it. I actually got the letter from the individual who, because I couldn't find it anywhere.
Right.
So Mr. Gardner.
Okay. I'm glad he kept it. All right, well, I'll edit it accordingly anyway, and we'll figure out how to get it transcribed. Okay,
Okay. Is that it? Motion to adjourn?
thank you, Al. There's a second.
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you, Richard. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I know.
See you guys in October.
Yeah, you know, I might
October
be
8th.
in Colorado in October, so I'm not, Jane, I'll let you know.
Okay,
Because I might be traveling in terms of, I might be there all of September and into October, but
Wow,
okay.
good for you.
I know, well, my wife really appreciates it. Let me put it that way.
You're just gonna say your idea or your wife's?
My wife.